Trigonometric identities. I have here a triangle, special triangle, right triangle, 30 degrees. Let's prove trigonometric identities. Just do it with me. Follow me now. We have an angle, 30 degrees, and this is right triangle. And as you know that the opposite side to 30 degrees, let's say it's 1. So here we go. And it's 1. And the hypotenuse must be 2. So the opposite to 30 degrees is 1, and hypotenuse is 2. Then what is the adjacent? Adjacent would be 2 square is 4, 1 square is 1, subtract will be 3. Then it will be square root of 3. Now we know what sine is. Sine of 30 degrees equals the opposite divided by hypotenuse will be a half. And cosine of 30 degrees. Cosine, as you know, is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. So cosine of 30 degrees equals adjacent, which is square root of 3 divided by 2. Square root of 3 divided by 2. So sine is the opposite divided by hypotenuse, which is 1 over 2. Cosine is adjacent divided by hypotenuse, which is square root of 3 over 2. Let's square sine. Square sine, and you gotta know why you square sine. Sine of 30, which is a, let's say a, or theta, equals. When you square a half equals 1/4. So a half square will be 1/4. And let's square cosine. Cosine square of a equals square root of 3 over 2, and then you square it. This ratio, you square it. Square root of 3 square will be a 3, and 2 square will be 4. So step 1, square sine. Step 2, square cosine. Now we're going to add sine square plus cosine square. Sine square of a plus cosine square of a. Let's do that here. So it's 1/4 plus 3/4, and 1/4 plus 3/4 equals 1. So the first identity I want you to discover, which is sine square plus cosine square equals 1. We call this the Bible of trigonometry. Here you go. This is the first identity. Just I want you to copy it. Copy that. Cosine square plus sine square. It doesn't matter the order. Sine square plus cosine square equals 1. This is the first identity. Another identity, it came from sine square plus cosine square. This, remember, this formula will stay with you till college. You remember me. And the second identity, the want to show it to you, which is 1 plus tangent square. 1 plus tangent square equals secant square. How you prove that? It's easy. How to get tangent square? Just divide all terms by cosine square. So sine square divided by cosine square equals sine divided by cosine equals, I hear you, tangent. Sine divided by cosine equals tangent. And when you divide here by cosine, cosine square divided by cosine square equals 1. And right side, 1 divided by cosine square. What's 1 over cosine square? Reciprocal of cosine square equals secant square. The third identity that I want you to learn, which is similar to the previous one, 1 plus cotangent square of theta plus. So 1 plus cotangent square of theta equals cosecant square of theta. So we have three identities for today. The first one is sine square plus cosine square equals 1. I want you to remember this always. This is the basic. And the second formula, which is tangent square plus 1 equals secant square. And the third, which is cotangent square plus 1 equals cosecant square. Cotangent square plus 1 equals cosecant square of theta. So three identities. I want you to know it and keep it in your notes to use it for solving problems in the future. The second triangle that we have here, you could do it by yourself. Just copy this. This is 45 degrees, right triangle. And of course, the third angle will be, I hear you, 45 degrees. So this is 45 and this is 45. 45 degrees. Let's write it down here. 45 degrees. So if this side is one unit, and this side will be 1 unit. This is isosceles. Isosceles right triangle. Of course, hypotenuse will be, use Pythagorean theorem, square root of 2. So 1 squared plus 1 squared is 2, and this is square root of 2. If you get sine, sine is 1 over sine, let's do it for A. Sine of A is the opposite, which is 1 over hypotenuse, which is the square root of 2. So 1 over square root of 2. That's for sine. Cosine will be adjacent divided by hypotenuse, which is the same, 1 over square root of 2. If you square 1 over square root of 2 will be a half. And if you square 1 over square root of 2 will be a half. A half plus a half equals 1. It's proved. So for any right triangle, you're going to find that. For any right triangle, sine square plus cosine square equals 1. This is the Bible of triangle. I want you to keep it in your notes. And trust me, the reason for calling this Bible of triangles, we use Pythagorean theorem, basics, because we square both sides. As you know, we square, and this is hypotenuse. And also, you're going to use it till college.